welcome to Rising. We have a show-tastic show for you today, and we're going to kick it off in a minute. Hello, Briahna.
Hello, Robby.
Nice to see you in another of my favorite shades of green.
I know
this
it
week.
delights you when we coordinate accidentally just a little
Sort of.
bit.
I'm coordinating with what you wore yesterday.
Fair enough. Maybe we'll get it right tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow. All right, what are we talking about?
Well, a 19-year-old man has been arrested and charged with threatening to kill, kidnap, or inflict harm on a president, vice president, or family member after he drove his vehicle into a barrier outside the White House last night. Police say their preliminary investigation indicates Varshith Kandula of Chesterfield, Missouri, acted intentionally when he drove into the White House barricade. Officials retrieved a Nazi flag from the U-Haul, which you can see laid out in the street in this photograph. A law enforcement source also told NBC News that the suspect made some kind of inflammatory comments at the scene.
Kandula has also been charged with assault with a dangerous weapon, reckless operation of a motor vehicle, destruction of federal property, and trespassing. No weapons or ammunition were found in the truck. No injuries were reported. This situation is still developing, and we'll obviously report on more information as it becomes available. We really don't know a lot at all. This is obviously a very young man, 19-year-old, from Missouri, of a Indian ethnicity, a name in some sense, or Pakistani or something from the part of the world, South Asia.
Yeah.
There's nothing more we know about his motives. Obviously, the finding of the Nazi flag is raising the specter of it being having Nazi ideas, and then now there's a lot of, I'm seeing on Twitter, a lot of people saying, well, here's another white supremacist who's not white. Isn't that interesting? With the criticism of the idea you could be a white supremacist if you're not actually white, which is something we've talked about before. Now, no one actually was calling him a white supremacist in the first place that I can see. Mm-hmm. So, he's not white. Now, he could still have Nazi ideas, or it could have nothing to do with anything. Who knows? We should probably note that, so he crashed into the barricade. So there's a barricade surrounding the White House. You can't get
close. There's the White House, and then there's the park.
Yeah.
And he crashed into, my understanding, looking at the photos that the Washington Post put out to demonstrate what happened on the scene, crashed on the other side of the park.
Right.
So the far side, not the White House side of the park. So a good distance from the White House. There's
that was my point. It got nowhere near.
Nowhere near.
It was not going to get anywhere near. You can't. There's no way you can get a vehicle and drive it and get it anywhere near the White House these days. People can't even walk, I don't think, anymore in the park. There's a road between the park and the White House that you used to be able to walk across. School groups could take pictures. That was a great place to take pictures near the White House with the White House in the background. Yeah, You can't do that anymore. That's all roped off. Frankly, it's annoying as a pedestrian living in the city, the greater barricades everywhere around the White House, and then also the Capitol. They'll come up. They've gone down since January 6th, but over the course of my time living here in D.C., it's gotten much more fenced off, the important buildings.
The motive question is a good one, in part compounded by the fact that if it was intended to be some kind of attack on the president, which is what he's been charged with, it's a very ineffectual one. There were no weapons in the vehicle. The vehicle came nowhere near the physical structure of the White House. They did reportedly they chose to evacuate the hotel that's on the corner of where the accident happened, the Hay Adams Hotel, I guess out of an abundance of precaution. But
they used a robot something to go into the U-Haul to see if it had any explosives. There was no explosives.
Yeah, it's hard to understand why somebody would put themselves in a situation where they're facing significant criminal penalties for what seems to be a very symbolic demonstration that has the effect of wrecking a car, not anything else. And then the inclusion of a flag without any other sort of ideological manifestos, or there was this reporting that he said something inflammatory at the scene, but it's not been reported exactly what he did say. So this is a situation that I think is ripe to breed suspicion. Then for the people who are claiming it's a false flag, et cetera. On the other hand of it, it is so incredibly lazy that if it were to be a false flag, it is unclear who this is for.
But he is not the first person to drive a vehicle into the barricade around at least the Capitol. It happened, there was a car that did it at the Capitol just a year and a half ago or so. I don't know exactly when that was. Same thing, no chance of succeeding, no explosives or weapons, just drove into the barricade. Yeah, look, crazy people. There was a fence hopper. There was a guy on foot who got over the wall and I think was sprinting across the White House lawn, and then they got him. I don't know. People are deranged. People do things that don't make any sense to the rest of us.
Yeah, I guess for somehow
and we look for
me
broader
that makes
political
more
context.
You know, hopping over the fence seems to me intent to get into the White House, crashing into a barricade on the other side of a big park. Yeah. That's, you know, still some distance from the fence that is then around the White House. Just seems like it's like me punching the air in the studio and saying it was an attack on the president almost.
Whoa, Briahna, dangerous. I mean, he's a 19-year-old. He maybe just plays video games. He thought he'd use the dash action after he got out of the car. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely continue to cover this. It's unclear, obviously, what's going on there. I mean,
we're making light of it a little bit. No one was hurt at all, so there's no somber attitude really to bring to it.
Right.
Good on the Secret Service for acting quickly. I guess there's a reason the barricades are up the way they are. Yeah, there was no chance of this ever imperiling anyone in the White House, as it should be. People need help. I don't know what else to say. People need help.
So here's an interesting dynamic. There has been reporting and conjecture, some polling to indicate that Joe Biden, former President Trump being under threat from various investigations, civil suits, et cetera, has had the effect of having his supporters circle the wagons around him. His polling has improved despite people's predictions. He is obviously leading, generally speaking, in the primary race, and additionally was up 7 points against Biden in a poll that we discussed yesterday. He seems to be getting strength from the perception that he's being attacked by his enemies. And there's an argument that the climate of COVID, but in 2020, the perception that Trump was not doing all that he could really helped Joe Biden as well in that electoral context. Do we think that these kinds of stories, the reality or perception of Joe Biden in the White House being under kind of a physical threat, evocative of 1/6 perhaps to some people, is something that is going to help people feel defensive of the institution, defensive of Biden politically in any way?
I don't know. I mean, maybe people are feeling that way. I think most people who are very mad at President Biden for his policies and very supportive of former President Trump are expressing that in healthier ways, trying to get Trump elected again. And again, we don't even really know what his discernible ideology.
Politics are, yeah.
You have to point this out because it so happens that he's Indian or Southeast Asian or whatever it is. That is where the swastika symbol comes from. Before it was appropriated by the Nazis, it was a symbol of like peace and love and
yes, I mean, of
hope
course, he does have a Nazi flag, not a random drawing of a swastika or it incorporated in some traditional Indian art or anything like that. It's not just the swastika.
Well, I haven't seen exactly what the flag looks like.
They had a picture of it laid out on the ground by the U-Haul truck in some of the reporting, and it was just cut, paste out of the history books, Sound of Music. There we go. I have it up on the screen for us now. So that's unambiguous, but the question is, what is that to mean exactly?
Right.
So we'll let you know as soon as we find out. I'm sure they'll be rolling reporting on this as the day goes on, and we'll have more Rising for you right after this.